Get going, I want to say for the record that I'm making an audio recording, Kathy's making an audio recording, Lake Cam is making video recordings, and I need to ask if anybody present is making an audio recording. Seeing none, we can move ahead. Thank you. Tonight we have 4 hearings. We have the continued Fest hearing. We have the Thomas hearing. Who is here for the Thomas hearing? You're here for the Thomas? Okay. And the Needham hearing?
Yeah.
And then we have the Monroe hearing. Mike, you're here. Most of you probably know this, but the zoning board normally has 5 voting members. We actually have 8 or 9 members on the board, 5 regular members, and I guess it's now we have 4 associate members. In order for any of our votes to carry, when we vote, we make a decision and we vote, you need a supermajority of the 5 members. That would be 4 out of the 5 members. So 4 members would have to vote in favor of a decision for it to carry. So you could have 4 votes in favor of a decision and 1 opposing vote, and the vote would still carry, the decision would carry. And if you only had 3 in favor, then the vote would not carry. When we have 4 members able to vote, as we do now, we have 4 voting members tonight, including Jim, who has come back to the board after an absence of several years. That means that all the votes have to be in favor for the motion to carry. If we had a dissenting vote, then we'd only have 3 in favor and a vote would not carry. The other rule that's important, and I have to say it, is because we have 2 continued hearings that are continued from last month, it's important that the people who are voting on a decision have heard the first part of the hearing. So that means that tonight we have only myself, Dave, and Jerry who were here last month. Jim was not here and did not hear the first part. So at the moment, we really cannot continue those 2 hearings unless another member walks in late, another member who was here last month. As it's now 17 past 7, I'm sorry to say that it doesn't look likely. I've had a number of people email me and say they were out sick or had other commitments. In all the years I've been on the zoning board, we've never faced this situation, so this is a first. What I'd like to do tonight is start with the 2 hearings that we may possibly be able to consider, and if we don't get enough members, then the 2 that are continued will have to be continued to next month, and I'm very sorry about that, but that's the legal implication, and that doesn't make me happy at all, any more than it makes the petitioners happy. So having said that, I think I'd like to start with the Thomas hearing at 20 Main Street, and I will read aloud the public hearing, the public notice, the Lakeville Zoning Board of Appeals, acting in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 40A as amended, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, October 17th, 2019 at 7 p.m. in the Lakeville Public Library, 4 Precinct Street, upon the petition of Kimberly A. Thomas. The applicant is requesting a special permit under 613 and 74 to operate a business on a pre-existing non-conforming lot located in the business zone, but that previously had a residential use as provided by the Lakeville bylaws. The property is 20 Main Street and is owned by Wayne A. Griffith, Gail D. Mason, and Glenn L. Griffith. Now, before we move ahead, I want to acknowledge that I'd like you to acknowledge that you would either like to move ahead tonight, understanding that you have to have, for your motion or for your petition to be voted in favor, you need a full vote of the 4 members. And if you don't want to take that chance, then we simply will continue it with your permission to next month.
Well, the owner is here and he doesn't want to wait until next month, so we can go forward.
if we go forward, you realize that you have to have a unanimous vote of the four of us. Okay. So your petition is fairly simple, it looks like. It does have some issues that may concern us slightly. The property you brought forward is now used as a residence. It has a home on it. It's next to Jack Conway, I think?
No. No, it's right next to where the beauty shop used to be.
Isn't it down next to the Jack Conway Realty?
No.
No, it's next to the medical facility, and then there's
Okay.
Campro's and building.
All right. It's down in that area.
Yeah.
It's zoned for business, but it has a residence on it. And you'd like to use that for a business. Couple of...
The reason I felt like for 2020, because the lot was undersized and non-conforming, that it's just a formality that I should come in and just say, tell the board this is what I want to use.
Well, I think it's partly a formality, but there are some issues. Since it was used as a residence, even though it's a business zone, I don't think you provided a plot plan for us, but there are...
I submitted it to the...
I'm sorry. I got it. I beg your pardon. I'm wrong. I don't see, maybe you guys with sharper eyes can see it. I'm looking for setback measurements, and I don't think I see them. Do you see them?
No.
No.
Yeah, the only one I see is for the leaching field on the side setback. And that's 15 feet, and everything else is well beyond that.
One of the issues is this. In a residential zone, the legal minimum distance between a dwelling and a side or rear property line is 20 feet. If it were business, that would be 40 feet. That's in our bylaws. And the front setback also is different between residence and commercial or business. So property that's been used for a residential purpose probably conforms to the residential bylaw, may not conform to the business bylaw, the commercial bylaw, which requires a greater distance. So we'd want to look at that, and I don't see those dimensions on your plot plan.
I think there's 125 feet of frontage, and the house is like only 20 feet wide.
I see the 125.
Yeah.
And so I'm raising that because normally we require those kinds of dimensions to be presented on the engineered drawings.
So I need to ask the engineer to add them.
And the other issue is that in a business zone, once this has been converted to a business use, then it cannot go back to residential use. Once it's business when you make that step. And so if we were to grant tonight, if we were to grant your petition, then we would probably put a restriction on the deed, or require a restriction be put on the deed that it shall remain business and not revert to residential use. So it can't become a home again.
And I probably need to continue and run it down. Yeah, I think we'll just continue with the full thing and I'll come back and get it.
Okay.
Do they also need a plan for the septic system?
Yeah.
See that on hand.
Yeah, Jim brings up a good point. There are some things that it probably would be worthwhile continuing so that you can have your engineer append or amend the drawing to include the side and the front setback, just so it's on the record. And as Jim points out, there was some work you have to do on your septic system plan. I'm looking at the copy of the email that apparently you included with your package. It says, I'm a little confused by the septic system language in paragraph 23. Is the seller actually installing the septic system, or are they just providing an approved septic system?
I'm going to install the septic system when I purchase it,
Okay.
based on this plan, the approved plan.
So while we're still in your hearing, I will read into the record that we have an October 11th memo from the Conservation Commission. The site visit was conducted on October 11th. There are no wetlands on or near this property, so no action is required. That's good. The planning board says in their October 16th memo, the planning board has reviewed the above referenced petition for hearing. The board has no comments regarding this petition. We also have a note from the Board of Health that says our office has reviewed the petition for the above referenced address. Per the Lakeville Board of Health regulations, this property requires further action for the change in use status. Our office has forwarded the change in use application and followed up with their engineer. Currently, the property has an approved septic system design on file that meets the required gallons per day for the proposed use office space. So, looks like you have a plan on file with the Board of Health.
I misunderstood because the Board of Health told me that the plan was approved for the change of use. Is that still correct?
I just read that aloud, right.
So I don't need to do anything else with the Board of Health?
I think you'd have to, before getting a permit to use the building, I think you'd have to show that you have installed the septic system. But it's not something that is deficient in your application, not now. Okay? So the issues before you right now are updating the engineered, the dimension drawings. And since you're going to use it for a business, did you submit to us a parking plan? Do you have, what kind of business are you planning?
Real estate business?
Okay, it probably would be helpful to include in your package next month a plan for the parking.
Is that for, because I only have 3 employees, like this, maybe only 2 people there are.
Yes, you're supposed to have a parking plan that shows how many you have for employees, how many you're going to have for customers, and where your ADA parking places, your handicap parking places, that kind of thing. Your engineer can add that to the plan. Do you guys have any suggestions that we can pass on to the petitioner for next month? What's the date? Anything? Suggestions?
I think you pretty much covered it.
Okay. So our next meeting would be November 21st, Kathy says. Would that work for you?
Yes.
Okay. So we will continue your hearing on Thursday, November 21st. Third Thursday. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You want a motion, Don?
Motion to continue, yes. Thank you.
So made.
Second.
Dave made a motion to continue. Jim has seconded the motion. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please.
Aye.
Aye. In favor. Thank you. We can move on then to the Needham hearing.
How you doing? May I approach?
You may. I think they really want you to stand at that podium, and
Okay, no problem.
and who is this from?
This is from my next door neighbor. She is here, actually.
Okay, good. So it is 7:30. Let's open the Needham hearing. The Lakeville Zoning Board of Appeals, acting in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 48 as amended, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, October 17th, 2019 at 7 p.m. in the Lakeville Public Library, 4 Precinct Street, upon the petition of Donald Needham. A special permit under 6.1 and 7.4 is requested to raise the pre-existing non-conforming dwelling located on a non-conforming lot and construct a new dwelling that would be within the side setback as provided by the Lakeville bylaws. The property site is 6 Plymouth Street. You're Mr. Needham.
Yes.
Did you hear my little speech before
Yes, I did,
about
yes.
only having 4 members?
Yes.
And we offer you the opportunity to continue if you want to wait for a 5th member, because if only one person votes to oppose your the decision,
Yeah, I understand.
you want to continue. You want to go.
We'll continue. Yeah.
You want to go tonight, or you want to continue it? That means put it on pause until next month.
We can, if we can go through it and we can do the vote on the 21st or whatever, if we do the hearing.
You want to do the hearing tonight?
Yeah.
You want to take a chance?
Well, what I meant is, if we do the hearing tonight, can we vote on it when there's 5 people here?
We can wait until next month to vote if you want.
Yeah.
But if we're going to do that, it would be
Yeah.
better. It would be better to wait until we have a 5th member, because that
Okay, we'll do that.
that fifth member couldn't vote because he or she is not here tonight.
I understand, yeah.
So it would be much better
Yeah.
to simply continue your hearing until next month when we do have another member,
Okay, we'll do that.
and not take a chance tonight.
Yes.
Okay. So we've opened the hearing, and you've made a request to continue to November 21st.
Yes.
All right. May I have a motion to accept the request for continuance, please? Who made the motion?
I'll make the motion.
David made a motion.
I'll second.
Jerry has seconded it. Any discussion on the motion to continue the Needham hearing to November 21st?
Okay, thank you.
Any discussion? All in favor, please.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Our hands are tied.
Need more members.
We have more members than we've ever had before, and more members are out sick tonight than we've ever had before. What do you want to do?
I mean, we made all the changes you requested, but we can't have a vote anyway. We made all the changes that you recommended last month.
I appreciate that. I think that's very a good show of good faith. But we can't. Well, I don't want to discuss it. I don't want to discuss it because if we do continue next month, I want the members who finally do show up to hear everything. That's the way it's supposed to be done.
Did you never have special hearings faster than a month?
We have on rare occasions when there have been real situations, but normally we don't. It's tough enough to schedule these, unfortunately. Will you make a request to continue?
Sure. Yeah.
We don't have a choice.
Okay. We have a request to continue, this is the FES hearing, a request to continue to November 21st. May I make a motion to accept, may I have a motion to accept the request, please?
So made.
Dave has made a motion. Who will second the motion?
Second.
Jerry has seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hoping certainly that in a month we have enough people. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor, please.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. I'm dreadfully sorry for this. Mike?
I guess, I'll make the same request for,
To continue?
So, and obviously, I understood you said that this was the first time this has happened.
This is the first time since I've been on the zoning board, which must be 20 years or more, that we've not had enough members and been in a situation where an existing member didn't hear the first half of the hearing to have a legal meeting.
I sat on a couple of committees before it, I understand, how that works. I guess my only question is, what if that happens in November?
I'm going to raise holy hell.
Okay.
That shouldn't go out on cable.
Already did.
And seeing this is such a rare event, I wasn't sure if there was a possibility of having, a meeting in between now and November 21st. Is that something that happens? I think that's the question you asked.
I was hoping for a special meeting because of this unusual circumstance.
I would say, as I said before, on rare occasions, probably once every 2 or 3 years, we will hold a meeting usually when we have an overflow, we have 7 or 8 hearings, and we simply can't do them. I mean, we'd be here till 3 in the morning. In those cases, we have scheduled extra meetings, but it's equally difficult to schedule another meeting other than our standard third Thursday schedule, because many of our members have other things, other town meetings or boards they're on. And so it's really difficult to get the membership. And I think tonight we're facing, I think 3 or 4 people who are sick. There's something going around. Maybe they're just sick of the meetings. So you would request to continue.
I would, please.
And you have information for us
I have.
according to the concern that I don't want to hear it now
No,
because.
yeah, based on what we discussed last time.
Right.
I've got as much of an update and answers as possible. And I will obviously have more between now.
You have, I guess you have the benefit of yet another month to keep hammering to get some of the things that I know you want to get.
Yeah, I do. So that's beneficial. Unfortunately, I don't think between now and November 21st, too much will change.
Well, it won't go backwards, I hope. You won't lose the things you can.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
definitely not.
Sure. Mr. Monroe has made a, Mr. Monroe.
Chairman, I have a question, actually. Procedurally, is it possible to get Jim up to speed on the 2 petitions tonight to kind of possibly prevent another issue next month? Because then he wouldn't be able to vote next month either, right?
I think Jim could, since Jim just joined, Jim could get a copy of the minutes if the minutes are ready, of the previous hearings and read up on them. And I think that would satisfy.
Okay, sure.
You can watch the video as well.
Well, I was going to say, probably watch the video would be the best thing.
Better suggestion here.
The video.
Watch that video.
Watch the video.
You watch it on cable.
Watch it on cable.
You can find it on the internet.
I'll explain how. You're
Okay.
right. You're right. I should have thought of that.
Everything that anybody ever talked about is right there for you.
Of everybody, since I'm the president of Lake Cam, I should have thought of that.
It was helpful, honestly. It was really helpful because we just kept listening to what you guys had to say. And so we're hoping you had nothing to say.
I want to really tell you, I truly appreciate your patience with this, both of you. And I'm embarrassed on behalf of the town. I do have to speak to a couple of members who really should be here and didn't inform me. Okay. Did we vote on?
We did not.
No.
Do we have a motion?
No.
I have one for you, ask for a vote. So because we're here tonight and we do both have information, is it worth having that discussion but postpone the vote?
No. That was a question that was asked a moment ago by the last gentleman. If you presented more information and then next month the 5th or the 6th person showed up, they would not have heard what you presented.
So we have to reiterate it.
I would just like to have the update. So that when we meet next month, you just bring us up to date on what you've learned based on the comments and concerns raised last month.
So I understand all that. The reason I asked that question is, although I think I am pretty well prepared with as much information as I can have, I just, if there was something else, if I presented what I had and I had feedback from the board, at least then I could get that feedback now instead of waiting after the November 21st meeting. Does that make sense?
I don't think it's a problem if you present what you have now, as long as you're prepared to present it once again, when there's extra ears here to hear it.
Yeah, okay. And then I think that would, help to, get the other member up to speed.
All right? If you want. I mean,
And I'm not sure if you guys are in that same boat, if you think it's worth.
well, that might be an opportunity for you folks to bring Jim up to date as well. But I do think that to be legal, we should hold your continued hearing next month with the vote next month. As I said, this is new territory. We've not had this situation before. I'm sorry to say that, but well,
we're gonna just go because
okay.
I don't want to, I mean, if there's any question of what you're doing is not appropriate or legal and causes some flaw in your decision down the road, I would rather just wait till next month. And
let's not.
It does cause delays.
Let's not give a lawyer. Let's not give a lawyer grounds for.
It's definitely setting us back, but there's, like you said, nothing we can do about it. And like you, I'm nervous about the town. But thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
So yeah, I'll just present what I have, right? And, it's more of an update than anything. And I'm fully prepared to reiterate that at the next meeting as well. Understanding that they'll be both, correct?
We're not going to take a vote tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But it doesn't hurt for us to hear it and offer suggestions for what additional you might do or might be helpful.
Okay. I just grab my folder.
Just retail, food products and oils, and if you can grow that, Joe.
He might have accessories, but it's a retail, not a medical.
Okay.
And it's basically a storefront.
Okay.
It's not the cultivation, it's not the preparation.
All right.
Jim asked if you're doing retail. My explanation was you're basically a store.
Correct.
Selling the product and maybe related accessories.
Yes. So we are adult retail dispensary. We're not doing any medical. We're not doing any growing, any manufacturing. So it's strictly a retail store.
But you will be doing like oils and food and things like that?
Yes, so we'll have edibles, oils, flour, all the different varieties of the way the product comes, again, with some accessories as well.
Okay.
Okay. So, and I'll give a brief update of what we discussed last month. So we went through the whole application that I'm not sure if you have, but we went through all that, answered most of the, or pretty much all the questions. And please, if I'm saying something that doesn't seem right, please correct me. Most of the discussion was centered around the number of parking spaces, and not only the number of spaces, but also the shape of the lot. So I do have a plot plan, site plan.
You didn't build that circular thing, did you?
I did not. I was there, and I do have some answers as far as that goes.
I drove down and looked at it.
Was that?
I drove down and looked at it, drove around the circle.
Yep.
There are no spaces marked out, it's just a black circle.
Correct, and that's
it's gonna be tight.
So I'll discuss that. So this is where the circular parking lot is. It's drawn out with 20 spaces. And this is the part of the building that we'll be occupying, just this piece right here.
Oh.
Okay. So we have, per our lease, all rights to this parking, but nothing else on the property. Okay. So that's that piece.
You have handicap spaces allotted?
There's 2 spaces right there, yeah. So a total of 20, 2 are handicap. So I asked Tom Parenta, the owner of Cold Storage, I explained the situation we were in, and I brought up, not only the number of spaces, but why that lot was configured that way. The answer that I got from him is basically it was more aesthetically pleasing, because he was going to put a flagpole in the middle, and even though it is circular, if the spots are angled, theoretically you back out one way and it's kind of one way in, just everybody goes in one direction. I also asked about the impervious coverage on the lot, okay, because obviously we would like to expand, either reconfigure that so it's more square or rectangular, or make additional parking on the property. I don't have an official answer yet. I reached out to the civil engineers, which is Zenith Consulting. So they are doing that analysis now to see how much is left for impervious coverage. They did think that we were pretty close to the max now. But again, I don't have official word for that. So that's the only piece that I'm missing as far as.
I think you're allowed, is it 75% impervious? We have to check with Nate Darling, our building inspector. But
Yeah.
But industrial, I know, is a lot different than residential.
Okay. And I have no knowledge of that. That's why I call the civil engineers.
Would you Nate Darling?
I do.
Would you ask him what you're allowed? Maybe he might even be able to tell you what you have now.
Okay. So
I should be able to find it.
So with that, the other.
Excuse me.
Sure.
According to this, there's 70% coverage.
70, it's 70, not 70. According to this, it's 70% now?
It has 70% coverage now.
And I think they're allowed 75%, aren't they? No, this says 50%. But I know that,
It's with the density bonus.
but I know with the density bonus, there's a, is it 75%?
I think it's 70.
No.
I'm not exactly sure.
I don't know the answer to that question that I asked.
Yes.
So Nate would be it.
Yeah, I'm sure Nate and I would assume the engineers would also know the answer to that.
Right.
So anyway, again, the general off-the-cuff answer was, if we're not there, we're pretty close.
Mike, let me go back a month. My sense was that the parking concern was raised because of what other people have seen in other similar businesses. When they've opened, there's been a huge influx of customers that floods the business. But then once the business gets going, then the traffic sort of falls back to a regular level. And I thought the concern was, how could you possibly handle all the customers that would come in during the first couple of months when it's open?
Cold storage building.
Yeah, so that was definitely part of it, and so not only the initial
There's one over here,
opening,
the
but also
refrigeration.
like the peak
And
hours.
there's one over here. So that
Right.
would be the second one.
Again, that was
Thank you.
the general concern, not only with this board, but other cities and towns, is how do you handle the initial flow from the grand opening, and during peak times, how does that work out? So the information that I do have, so Nature's Remedy, which is the cultivation facility in that same building, they recently opened.
He's right, 70% here.
Okay, so that means we're right there. So Nature's Remedy opened a retail dispensary in Millbury, okay, which is right on 146. Huge building, beautiful building. Their parking lot has 42 spaces. So what the town has made them do is have a appointment only for the first month of operation, okay, in which they're doing that, right? And initially they only opened up so many appointments for the first week or so, and then they've opened up more appointments, thereafter.
And it worked?
Works perfectly fine. I think they have like another week or so at that, and then they're gonna open it up. But they've already seen their steady customers. And even though they're doing appointments, they're scheduling the appointments and they have excess appointments available that aren't, getting open. So they're not at full capacity as far as when those peak times are. Talking to John Brady from Nature's Remedy, he said that he has 42 spaces and they haven't come close to filling that lot. He said usually the most he's seen is about 20. And again, they're keeping track of this because they're also going to be opening other dispensaries in Mass as well. In last month, I quoted you a number of 15 minutes from the time somebody pulls into the parking lot, they go in, they come out, and they leave. He said that's pretty much an accurate number. Granted, there are some people that will come in for the first time, ask a whole bunch of questions, have discussions as far as that goes, so that will take more time. But there's a process where you order online. As soon as you walk in, you go to a certain line, you pick up your stuff, you turn around and you go. So that's much less than 15 minutes. So overall, we do still feel that 20 spots is a comfortable number in general, right?
Quick question for you.
Sure.
So what town was that in again?
Millbury.
Millbury.
Yeah.
And what's the square footage of that shop, do you know?
I don't know the answer to that. It's much larger than what we have for space though. Okay. And it's a brand new standalone building with, like I said, 42 parking spaces. And it's literally, if you drive up 146, there's a road that runs parallel to that, and it's on that parallel road. So not only did the town make them adhere to the appointment only, I think the state still owns that road that it's on, so the state kind of made them adhere to that. And police details they had for like the first week or two. Since then, the police chief has admitted there's no reason to continue the police details because it's a pretty even flow.
And those details cost money.
Yes. Yes. But again, if you have the traffic flow and to make sure that everybody's comfortable and happy, it's well worth it. Yeah. Again, I've driven by the dispensary in Somerset. Never a line outside. They've been open for 2 months, I believe, because they had been open for several weeks. Last month when I was here. Granted, they do have ample parking, but when I look in the lot, maybe they have 10 or 12 cars in there, and I would assume that includes employees. There's a dispensary up the street on 44 in Middleborough. That is not open yet. Again, that's a standalone building. They have 20, what it looks like, there's 20 spaces for customers, which is towards the front, and they have roughly 10 spots in the back. And again, that's something that's right on 44. And I know they're not open, so we don't know what kind of business they're doing. So that's what I've seen so far. I did have, in the conversation with Tom Parento, the owner of Cold Storage, he said he's completely committed to help us do whatever we can to get more parking on site. He has several buildings on Kenneth Welch Drive that he's more than willing to lease as many spots as we need. We're still completely planning on having all of our employees park at one of the off-site parking lots that Cold Storage owns. And again, if we see an influx of customers, we can have them park off-site at one of those. And I've been trying to get estimates on purchasing a shuttle bus as well as getting insurance quotes for that.
Mike, refresh my memory. We discussed all that whole long line of parking spaces that are adjacent to your building.
Yes. I'll just bring this up here.
Yep.
So all these?
Yes. Yeah. Those are reserved for somebody, for employees, for the...
Nature's Remedy. So I spoke
How many
to John Brady about
employees do they have?
So he says they will have 50 plus employees.
Wow.
Right, now I don't know if that's 1 shift, 3 shifts. I don't know what the breakdown is of that. So I asked John, hey, can we take some of the spots that you have, right? And although, he's like, I'd love to do it, but then the special permit that was granted to him was inclusive of all those spaces. So we can't have our cake and eat it too, essentially.
I mean, it would seem reasonable if you could predict what the startup phase was, the grand opening phase that goes on for, let's say, 2 months or something, that you could temporarily rent an extra 10 spaces.
Yeah, he should be able to lease them to you on a temporary basis.
Again, his concern was, he went to the planning board, was the one that granted the special permit. So his concern was, if those spaces get used for something else, he might be in violation of that permit.
If he went to the planning board and told him he was only going to temporarily lease them, it would probably make a big difference.
I can approach him, but like I said, that conversation was pretty quick because he didn't want to do anything to violate that permit.
No, that's understandable. Was that permit was with the planning board, not with us?
It was, yeah. I'm the lucky one to sit in front of you guys.
It would be nice to find a remedy to solve the short-term grand opening onslaught, if there even is one.
Again, if you were to look at all the dispensaries that are opening, every city and town has the same concerns. We don't want the same thing that we saw in Leicester and some of the other locations to happen in that city and town.
What happened there?
Where when they first opened, there were, traffic coming from all over the place and basically shut the streets down. So to mitigate that, that's why you do appointment only, at least for the first couple of weeks. And then, there's discussions between the dispensary owners and the police department about, okay, do we relax that contingency as far as having the appointment only? And again, Nature's Remedies, the ones that we're closest to, they opened, I believe, the middle of September.
Is there anything other that any other information you want to convey tonight for Jim's benefit, aside from the parking?
I don't think so, because I think everything else was pretty cut and dry last time.
I think it was pretty much resolved.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that we stop here, if you've heard enough. You can certainly review on Lake Cam.
I got Dave's notes from last month for both hearings, and I'm going to read them when I get home.
You have his notes, but I think reviewing the videos is a good idea.
Okay.
And I can show you how to get to those easily.
Okay.
And so when we meet again next month, I'm hopeful that we have enough members, and you'll need to probably repeat this whole thing again.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
So if there's nothing else, then I think we can move forward with our vote for continuation.
Yeah, no question, right? We're all good with the questions. Okay.
I mean, the question remains, what can we do about parking? But
The only question I had was, have you explored the options with Jim about reconfiguring that lot or doing something different than what's currently there?
So unfortunately, I just reached out to Jamie from Zenith Consulting this week because he was on vacation. I didn't have permission from Tom Barrento to reach out to them, so unfortunately I was a little delayed in getting to that point.
Yeah.
But he said he would get back to me beginning of next week with what he thought about what the coverage was and what other options we had, if any.
Good.
But again, I think if we're at 70%, probably the reason they did that lot configuration was to stick within that 70%. So, unfortunately.
that's good geometry.
Yes. Somebody smarter than me figured that out. I can guarantee that.
Maximum surface area with maximum circumference with minimum area.
I think it's because he cut out that centerpiece. It's like the donut hole that they took out.
Right.
So thank you for your time. I appreciate that.
Thank you for your patience with it.
According to this thing, each pantry's got 13 spaces that they're saving for further future expansion. They've got 36 spaces right now that they're using now. The 13 spaces that they're saving, wouldn't that be possible?
Did you hear what he said?
I did not.
Take a look at this. Right here, they've got 13 spaces that they're saving for future expansion. They're using 36 spaces right at the moment. They should be able to rent you those 13 spaces that they're not using right now.
Okay, so I'll try to, my understanding is right now, they've completed phase 1
Yep.
of their cultivation, and they're
Right.
phase 2, so that probably is part of the phase 2. So I can have that conversation.
Possibly not, you know, it doesn't hurt to look into it.
Your need is short-term.
That's our understanding, yes.
And the more of these that open, the less will be the startup impact.
It's, yeah, right now it's still somewhat of a novelty. But yeah, every one that opens, it's less of a novelty.
Right.
You know? And based on what John probably, was that? So I made several trips by Northeast Alternatives, one in Fall River that you kept mentioning. And even though they have a huge parking lot, they still have lines out there. Just because I think they have that location, that's the only one in a decent sized city that borders, you know, a different state and is on a pretty central highway, you know, Route 24.
They get all the trade from Newport.
Newport, and I actually think they have a lot of customers from Connecticut and New York that go to that.
Wow.
Yeah, so, good for them.
And what prevents mail order business?
The state. The state.
The
The state doesn't allow it. Well, I shouldn't say that. I believe it's also the federal government, because the federal government still doesn't recognize it
Yeah, you can't cross
as being legal. So if you try to mail it, I think bad things happen.
So it's just cross the state line.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
cross the borders.
But the
Okay.
good thing, like I said, is there's an app called Leafly, and you can basically pre-order whatever you want. So when you go in, it's like a to-go order. You walk in, you go to that particular line. Unlike Patello, here's your order, there's the payment, see you later, bye.
Yeah, I do that at Home Depot.
I do that in Stop and Shop now, which is phenomenal.
Slightly different product.
Yeah, exactly. So, hopefully this update was good. I will absolutely reiterate it.
Yes.
And I will find out about those different spaces there.
Who made a motion to accept?
I started to.
Okay, David has made a motion to accept the request for continuance to November 21st.
I'll second.
And Jerry has seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much for your patience
Thank you.
and your understanding of this weird situation we're in. Do we have minutes to look at?
Okay.
Anything to sign?
I have Comcast. How do I find out when they're going to? Thank you.
I will let you down. It's easier than it seems.
Okay.
So it is 8:03, and I guess we will adjourn. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.